Hey everybody, it is Kendéll Lenice and welcome to Shine with Kendéll Lenice. Boy oh boy, do I have an episode for you. It's all about purpose in the partnership, thriving in love and partnership. Your purpose partner. You hear people talk about that often, but what is that really? My guests, Darrell and Veronica Williams, know all about it. They've been married for 25 years, and they were dropping so many nuggets and gems in this episode, I couldn't even keep track. It's so important to have the right partner by your side in love, because when you do, there's nothing that you can't do with one another. And as I watched and listened to them in this episode, I am re-inspired in love. Mary J. Blige has a new song called I Still Believe in Love. And it's a beautiful song. No matter what she's been through, she still believes in love. And this couple will inspire you to do the same. I'm going to start with this week's life note, and I'm going to allow you to join this amazing episode of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. I hope you all are well. I hope you get your pens and pads out, your note section in your phone to take notes. But as always, we're going to start with this week's life note. All right, it's time for this week's life note. All right, a life note. What is a life note, Kendéll? It's a saying or quote or even a mantra that will get you through this episode. It all ties together, or get you through life, something to have you thinking about. This life note is by Barbara Cage. I don't know who she is, but I love the quote. Love is a partnership of two unique people who bring out the very best in each other. And who knows that even though they are wonderfuls, individuals, it says wonderfuls, or wonderfules, that's what it says, individuals, they are even better together. So, two unique people who bring out the very best in each other and who know that even though they are wonderful individuals, that's how I'm going to say it, they are even better together. And it's a song. I'm a movement by myself, but I'm a force when we're together. You make me better. Neo sang that song. So I'm excited for you all to hear this episode of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. And they were speaking about complimenting one another, being better for each other. And we also talked about relationships not being a 50-50 thing. What do I mean? Well, I'm half and you're half, and now this person completes me. We talked about being 100% and doing your work to be the best version of you can be, and then you can bring that into a relationship. So enough of me. I want you to tune in to this episode of Shine with Kendéll Lenice, and I will be here at the end to sum it all up and wrap it all up. All right, check out this latest episode of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. I love y'all. Y'all know that. That's why I'm bringing y'all this. Season 11, we're focusing on relationships. So not just the stories of people who have been through things and who have thrived and survived, but I want you to experience love through this couple as well. And they have been through hardships as well, but it's about how you get through them together. So tune in. Let me know what you think. Hello, everybody. This is Kendéll Lenice, and welcome to Shine with Kendéll Lenice. I'm so glad that you are here. If you're listening to the audio version or watching on YouTube, I appreciate you. As you all know, this is the 11th season, yes, of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. It's all about changing the narrative and just helping people grow and be better. And as a transformational life coach of over 25 years, this is my mission, my call, my purpose to do this. So I'm excited about this show. As you guys know, season 11 has been all about relationships. I asked, what did you want me to focus on in season 11? You guys said relationships. So that's what we have been doing. We have been hearing the stories of others. We have had a lot of life coaches on here, like myself, to give you that professional side, but everybody also has shared the intimate side of relationships, their lessons that they've learned, the things that they've had to endure or go through, how it built their muscle, helped them be stronger, or brought them closer together. I promote healthy relationships because anybody can get into a relationship. Anybody can have a relationship if you have a pulse, but will you have a healthy relationship? And do you have the tools to be able to have a healthy relationship? Hopefully I can do my part in fortifying that. So I'm excited. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do so. If you're able to rate and leave a message, please do so as well. It is all about relationships, and I'm looking at my guests now, and I'm excited. You're going to learn a lot from them. You know how you just get that feeling, right, from their background and their experiences. And I love that for all of us. But if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and share this out. Whether you're listening on the audio version, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Hopefully this is one of them. And to all my loyal listeners, thank you so much for repeatedly coming back to this podcast. I don't take it lightly. I appreciate you all. And if this is your first time ever tuning in to Shine with Kendéll, Lenice, I'm so glad you did. As always, welcome in and tell a friend. Tell them that we're on. Mama, we on. All right. So let me introduce my guests without further ado, and then you'll get a chance to meet them. So Darrell Williams and Veronica Williams. Darrell first, let me go with him, or because I'm going to save the best for last, the ladies, all right? Darrell brings extensive experience as a master certified life coach and a member of the Federal Coaching Network. He is an inspirational speaker and certified facilitator who provides clients with expertise in the realm of leadership, relationships, and purpose. I love that. His leadership background includes 30 years of the federal service, highlighted by his induction into the White House Communications Agency Hall of Fame. That's a big deal. His leadership coaching is based on a stellar 20-year military career where he traveled as an operations and vice presidential communications officer, leading over 500 White House missions. Following the tragedies of September 11th, Darrell was selected as one of 5 key leaders from 30 senior managers to direct an emergency action communications for the Vice President of the United States, to include duties as an Air Force 2 command representative. Let me just breathe over that for a minute because I almost lost my breath. He is very accomplished. So we're talking about love and leadership. And I believe, and as you heard, he knows a little bit about leadership. Now, for his lovely bride, and she uses her experience. This is Veronica Williams. She uses her experience as a master certified life coach, keynote speaker, and certified facilitator to provide clients with expertise in the areas of relationships, empowerment, and purpose. See, already we're talking about relationships. And when I was in church, we focused on we focused on relationships also. And what kept coming up is your purpose partner. And both of them, their mission and to help people find their purpose. So we're going to talk about purpose relationships as well. But let me continue with Veronica. She has been involved in life coaching for many years, and her experience has helped influence women and strengthen couples throughout the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Wait a minute. I didn't realize we were in the same area. She's also a licensed minister and have been a part of the community leadership and relationship building the greater part of her life. So it's natural, she says, to find a way to utilize my gifts and knowledge to encourage individuals wherever they are in their journey. So important. Additionally, she coaches military wives, as she was one. This is purpose. This is all purpose. Do you guys hear this? As a spouse of a veteran, helping women maneuver through the challenges that come with the military lifestyle. A lot of people don't know. I was a military wife and I lived on an Air Force base. So I'm loving this. She says her life has not been easy, but she has learned that but it's been fulfilling. And she has learned that your misery produces your ministry. Whew, I'm going to stop right there because that's a whole word right there. Without further ado, welcoming this lovely couple to Shine with Kendéll and Lenice. It is Darrell and Veronica Williams.
Hello.
You guys are all right with me.
We try.
Man, oh man. And as I told you, well, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm glad that you are here. Just reading your bios, I love to, as I told you, to have organic conversations. And sometimes I read through the whole bio and sometimes I like to read it on camera. But after speaking to you, Darrell, and you said, you know what, you can get a 2-for-1 because my wife is available too. That was perfect for this relationship series.
It's about.
Absolutely. So I'm trying to figure out where I want to start with you because there's so much to get through in such a little time. But I want to talk about what I just was saying about a purpose partner. Can you talk for a moment and let our audience know what that is?
Sure. So for me, I'm very fortunate because being in the military, those that are aware that you know that you don't accomplish anything in your career without your better half. That's just how it is. No successful person has ever made it without that better half. So that was the one part of our journey, just me knowing that she was always there for me while I was in the military. But after retirement, I wanted to make sure that I paid it forward and say, okay, what do you want to do? What is God birthing in you? So I wanted to make sure that I did the same thing that she did for me. So partner purpose is making sure that you don't focus on self, but you focus on the other.
Yeah. And that's so important. You said that you couldn't get, and I don't want to misquote you, but you're saying that you couldn't even get as far as you did without her, pretty much. Can you talk about that? Because I don't think people truly understand when it comes to marriage and it comes to partnership. Could you go further with that? Because I really want people to understand that.
Sure. So one thing people need to realize is when you are blessed with a partner, that means to us, God has put that person in your life to also help walk beside you and not to complete you, but to help push you. We're already complete as individuals.
Yeah.
But when God puts you together, there's something extra that your partner can bring out of you that you cannot bring on your own. And I've seen it throughout. And when you look at it and like, okay, how did that happen? Why was that so successful? why was that failure not a lone failure? And it was because of her pushing me, asking me the right questions, allowing me to focus on the next instead of the what didn't happen.
Oh.
And then after a while, when you have that partnership, you want to make sure that you do the same. When we went through our marriage counseling, Pastor Hay, he was so great. He said, Darrell, I only got one job for you in this whole marriage. And me being in the military, I'm like, I'm good, man. I'm always ready to take notes, give it to me. And what he said was, your only job in this marriage is to help Veronica fulfill her God-given purpose. That stuck with me because it was like, even though I'm doing this stuff for the White House and in the military, my main focus was still, how do I support Veronica? So it was never about me. It's always been about us.
From the very beginning.
Absolutely the beginning.
You went into it knowing that. And I think that that is so valuable because so many people, you know, even me being divorced myself, so many people don't get that message until later, right? And don't understand what it truly is. But for you to have been able to get that early on, and you know, and I think people miss that. Even being in the church, even being in ministry, even being of God, a woman of God or a man of God. I think so many people miss that. Veronica, why do you think so many people miss that? And how does that make you feel when you hear your husband say this?
Well, first of all, it was stunning when Pastor Hay mentioned it. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is my job? I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting. But what I do know is that Darrell was for me. And that was because before I met Darrell, my groom was God. And so I got all my instructions from him. When we met, when we got together, I was just seeking God on every hand. And so, and my thing was, God, I really want to know that he loves you more than I love him. More than, you know, just like I love you, I want to know that he loves you more. Because then I knew, because as I was reading my word and teaching Bible study to children and being a part of a women's ministry, I realized that the next step for me, when it was going to be time for God to tap me on my shoulder and say, he's the one.
Yeah.
I was going to have the right mindset.
Yeah.
So I think so often people go into relationships with the wrong mindset. They also go into relationships not really realizing that it's not about this person meeting this. I'm going to need someone that can handle that.
Yes.
Someone that knows me. Someone that would love me, as you say, that we're to love out of Ephesians, you know. And so in meeting him, I didn't have a guard up. You have a guard up, but I didn't have a guard up as to what God wanted to do for us. And as we became, for us, and most often it doesn't really happen in relationships, is that we became really good friends initially. You hear people say they changed after we got married. He's not the same or she's not the same. I don't know what happened. She switched up on me or whatever.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case for us. We really was true to who we were. And I think part of it is that we love each other for who they are.
Yeah.
Or who we are and not for who we want them to be.
Yeah.
And I think that said, first of all, you get to know this individual.
Yeah.
To the depth. You know,
Yeah.
Don't rush to say, oh, I met my knight in shining armor and it's time for us to get married. You know, that's not the case. How about can we just grow more as friends and I get to learn this person? You know, I always let people know it's good to just date someone in all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Because when you get one season under your belt and you're ready to go and embark in marriage in the next few months later, you haven't really seen this person operate in several different types of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Probably never really been around their family to really get to know their family,
Mm-hmm.
because really when you're marrying someone, you're not only marrying them, you're marrying the family.
Yeah.
And so, um, as a partner with purpose, it is important that you really seek out this individual to know that they are who God has said they are to you. And it's easy to support something like that. For me, my experience with the military wasn't really a success story as far as my two brothers being drafted into the military at the age of 18 and going away and leaving and not coming back the same, not
Mm-hmm.
coming back as the teenagers that they were.
Mm-hmm.
They became men very quickly. So in meeting Darrell, I needed to find out what was life really going to be like, because I never got to see a real military life other than the ones that my my two uncles, and my aunts had, which that was a success story.
Mm-hmm.
But for myself, I needed to know, was this really the one, God? Is this really what you're telling me?
Right.
And God would give me the right question
Yeah.
to ask. And even when it was something hard on my part, I would pray about it, and Darrell would bring it up right away. And I'm like, okay, that's God, because he operated that. I didn't have to bring it up, but it became discussion for us.
You said, oh my goodness, you said so many different things. To date in all seasons. When you know it's of God, you don't even have to bring it up. Your husband is just going to, not that he's a mind reader, but he's in tune with what God is telling him to do. And he's in tune with you and what you need. And really, people don't even get that concept and understand. If you're both under a covenant and you're both under, what God is instructing, then you're going to be able to, it's going to be able to make sense to you. And you're not even going to have those questions and all of that confusion that usually comes with all of that. How long have you been together, and how many seasons did you go through before you knew that she was the one and he was the one?
So we've been married 25 years. It'll be 26 years in September. And the interesting part for me was I did not know she was the one, because I was in the D.C. area getting ready to go to Korea. So in the back of my mind, it was like, I'm not going to have a friend wait on me wondering if something's going to happen or not. So the funny part was almost like I was going against God's plan, because I was trying to separate and keep things at a friendly level.
But let's pause for a second. How many times do we go against God's plan?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the part of me was like, I don't want to hurt my friend.
Yeah.
I want to put false expectations for my friend. And the more we got closer to me leaving, the more God was like, hey, pay attention to me. This is the right one. And even I didn't see it. My roommate, we were having our little late night talks we would always have in the hallway. And he was like, Darrell, what if she's the one? I'm like, the one what? He was like, the one.
The one
what?
what?
I was solely focused on going to the military, going to Korea and coming back. And if we didn't meet anybody, then we would start back the friendship. But God.
So how long had you been friends at that point, and you didn't want to hurt your friend? Like, how long had that been before you had to go to Korea?
Years.
3 years. Oh, wow.
About 3 years. Because we grew up in the same neighborhood, but we never dated each other. Or the same city, rather. But we all had the same friends.
Yeah.
So when I would travel TDY, temporary duty, to LA, we would have these little mini reunions, and like the more I came, the more different people showed up. And she would never be able to make it because she had church obligations or family obligations. So when we did connect or would catch up, it was like, wow, she's doing stuff with the children's ministry. I'm doing stuff with the youth ministry. So we were just finding out those like purposes that we had. And again, not even having any intentions on trying to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And, and on the other hand, I was like, well, just let him go to Korea. If I meet someone, or if you meet someone, it's okay. We had a good friendship. I'm good with that. But that was not the case. So to add to his story, as if I was the one or not, he had to leave out of the Midwest, but he was able to change his ticket to leave out of the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So I met him in Seattle to just for us to just see each other, and just he's going to be going to Korea. I'm going to go back home to California.
Yeah.
And that was it. But to my surprise, Darrell was on that plane with a ring.
What?
To propose. And so as a result, that was our weekend that he really proposed. We have been talking about relationship deeply in terms of, would you be, is your goal to get married, or is your goal just to date?
Right.
And for me,
important conversation.
Important
conversation, because some people just float along. I'm afraid to ask. I don't know, but you have to be intentional. And if a man is going to be intentional. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
No, I just said it sounds like he was intentional, and people have to understand you have to be intentional. If you don't want to, both people need to know that they don't want to. If you want to and the other person doesn't, that's not even evenly yoked, even from the beginning.
No.
So it has to be
one of the things that
Oh no, you.
One of the things I'm sorry. And one of the things that I had told him is that I'm looking for someone to date me in a taboo fashion. You're gonna have to court me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was the late 90s, but at the same time, I think people, at that point, I think a lot of women they were more pursuant of the men, which probably in some cases scared men away.
Mm-hmm.
But God was sharing with me that you're the cheese.
Mm-hmm.
If a blind mice can find cheese, your mate will find you. You
Come
don't
on.
have to go looking, you don't have to go snooping.
Right.
You don't have to say, is he the one? You just keep doing you.
Right.
And one of the best things I learned from my sister is that she was like, girl, a watch phone never rings, so you better go do you. You better go out, have some fun, still live your life. This was prior to Darrell. But even with us having a long distance relationship, I still had to not let life stop.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened. People allow, when we talk about partners and purpose, people allow their lives to stop. But what happens is individuals need to see each other in their element and in their busyness, and ask the poignant question: Do your schedule have room for me?
Mm-hmm.
And be honest about
Mm-hmm.
it, because we don't want any unrealistic expectations. We want to be truthful. And anyone that you marry or are in relationship with, you want to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be able to have safe conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to have this, everything going on in your mind that really isn't happening. Because I saw so many people create things in their mind, but the reality of the situation was nothing like what they had developed in their mind.
Right.
And so I think you have to have the right mindset. And then also you have to be ready. You have to want it. But instead of me trying to figure out if Darrell is the one, I really had to ask God, Lord, am I a suitable mate for him?
Let's
And
pause
I
right.
really,
Let's wait. Let's pause right there because that was a gem. Because so many people are focused on the other person and if they're a good mate for you. But you ask God, show me if I am the perfect mate for him. I think that's so key because so many people just focus on the other person, focus on the other person. So I guess God told you you were.
yes. And let me say this, because not only that, I was coming out of singleness and I was going into a familiar lifestyle, which was military.
Mm-hmm.
So that adjustment right there from a civilian to a military life, I had to make sure that God was prepping me and preparing me for that. Darrell did a great job doing that. But I want to also say those are some things you have to take evaluation of yourself or inventory of yourself to figure out whether you're suitable. Can you handle the responsibilities? Are you able to, you know, get together with someone and really just love them for who they are? And
Yeah.
can you and not only that, do you really know what his purpose is, and isn't it in alignment with yours? So we both had a relationship with God. We both were serving God. We both were active in our church. But then we knew that when we were coming together, God was the most important thing, and he was going to have to be the head. A lot of times we lose sight of that we get our man, and then God is on the back burner. But for us, the reason why we're thriving and successful and having a healthy relationship is because we did it God's way. And we're getting instructions from God and not just from ourselves, some books, social media, all of that.
Another thing too is people mix up the C's. They're so busy focused on completing, but the right word they should be looking at is complimenting.
Complimenting. Let's unpack that. Let's speak about that because I think that's so important.
It is because, like I said, I knew Veronica was working in youth, in the children's ministry. I was working in youth ministry. So part of my mindset is how can I compliment what she's already doing? How do I see where she would be able to compliment me? We got to get rid of this word about completing.
Yes, we do. I just spoke about that earlier.
Word.
Yeah,
absolutely. We don't need to have that word when it comes to relationship. It's all about complimenting what God is already doing. Because when you do that, like Veronica said, you don't worry about the unnecessary stuff. And I remember it was a sermon from T. Jakes a long time ago. Exactly what Veronica said. It was like, quit trying to find the right person and just focus on being the right person. And then that way, everything will fall in place at its time. And it was so funny. I saw a quote last week that said, God, prepare me for what I'm praying for.
Prepare me what I'm praying for.
For what I'm praying for. So many times we're praying for something, but we never ask God to prepare us for it.
That's true.
And that goes with relationships.
We're only halfway through, and you guys are dropping so many gems. And at the end of the show, I usually ask what the gems are, and it's going to be so many. I'm not going to be able to even narrow it down, but to compliment one another is so important. And those are that's really music to your ears. If you think about that, like, how can I be of service to you? How can I compliment you? What I have, what I've been through, my experiences, my belief, and I see you doing the same. How can I be of service? That's basically what that's saying. How can my assets complement what you're already doing? I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I'm not trying to change the things that you're doing, but how can I be an asset? So had you ever heard that before, Veronica?
Yes, I've heard that before.
No, I mean before your husband.
I was under a great teaching of a women's Bible study, of a singles Bible study, and we got a lot of gems. We got a lot. And really, and my Bible study teacher back then, he was saying, he might have said it a little different, but he was saying it just what Darrell was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was sharing with us, and this was for men and women in this Bible study, it was like 600. What church do you know have a membership of a Bible study on a weekly night with like 600 and some people?
Wow. A good one.
Right. And we had that because it was good sound doctrine and sound teaching to help single people live a life of Christ. And what he would say is, ladies, if you like someone, don't even tell your best friend. He said, just keep checking them out. Mm-hmm. Let God show you if this person is for you. Don't try to go and make it work or whatever. You know, just let it naturally happen if this is the one. But how do you even know? You just see this person in one aspect, walking into the church, but you don't see him when he's not in the church.
Yeah.
So it's so important that even as women, and I've seen this happen over the years, even if the individual goes to church, you want to make sure that they really have a relationship. They don't just show up and sit down, get a word, say, oh, that was a good word. But you want to see the action behind it.
For sure. For sure. I think
and so
that's
that is it. And that was really how Darrell and I came with this. We wanted to make sure that each of us was what we said we were. But most importantly, we were trying to figure out how God wanted us to be together. Because it was all about, and based on our backgrounds, I'm from a large family. I'm the youngest. He's the oldest in a smaller family than I, half the size of my family. And so we wanted to make sure that we didn't bring excess baggage.
Yeah.
We talked about, what did you like from your family? What didn't you like? What didn't you like about your parents and their parenting skills or their unity? Well, we definitely not going to bring that in here. Let's start a foundation just for us, because everybody has their say, especially family, when it comes into being involved in a relationship.
Yeah.
And we had to build our own foundation based on what God had instructed us.
Yeah. So I think that's so wise and so important. And I really think that all young people should get that marriage training, because that's really what it is. How do you complement? How do you coexist? What is a purpose partner? What are your spiritual gifts? What can you bring to the table? I think that is so important. I honestly think that the divorce rate would be down, right, if we did it based on what God said and how he said it and how. But I think it's important for us to heal as people, right? And to tackle what we need with God, with what he's trying to do with us, instead of focusing. Most people just focus on another person. I hope he's the one. I hope she's the one. I hope God did this to them. God did that. And they're sitting here still broken, still unhealed, and still not surrendering to what will be and what God really has for them. So I think it's so important. I want to talk about, you agree, first of all? I see you shaking your head.
Yes, I agree. And I just want to add, that is so important that you want to make sure that person has, I like the word how you said, has healed from past relationships and past ways that the relationships may not have worked out. And are they healed enough for a new relationship? Because so often we prematurely go into our next relationship without even getting the healing. And we're broken. And we have the repetitive issues still going on, which continues to lead to divorce. That's the only thing that they know. But until you become healed, you really and you know that without a doubt that God has healed you, that's when you should embark on something in a new relationship.
I agree 100%.
And you don't know you're ready for that until you spend time with yourself. Too many of us are afraid to spend time with ourselves. So it's like, I got to have somebody in my life because no. Just spend time with yourself and everything else will fall in place.
Yep. And because you got to get to know yourself. How can you share your likes, your dreams, your desires, what you need, what would work for you if you don't even know? People can tell you all day long what they don't want and they don't need, but they don't even know what they do need. So how can they convey that to someone else and then say, well, you didn't do, well, how do they know? You know, so it's so important to spend time with you. I agree, Darrell. Get to know who you are, right? Get to know who you were called to be, what your purpose is, you know, what your life's agenda is, and just understanding, even if it's past hurts or past trauma or past, past repetitiveness, you know, of the same things that you were doing that were no longer serving you or working for you. What is all of that? Clean all of that out, and then you can enter a relationship as a healthy person, and prayerfully the other person has done their work, so you can now have a healthy relationship, because you can't have a healthy relationship if even one person is unhealthy.
Yep.
You both have to.
Correct.
So I agree with you when you say, and I constantly say this, we have to eliminate that term, like they complete me. No, God brought you on this earth complete. Now it's time for you to do your work. No one else has the power to complete you. Right?
Exactly right. And that's why I love what Veronica always tells people when she's sharing is, you can't come in there with unrealistic expectations. That's what that does. That puts so much pressure on another person, and that type of pressure should not be on that person. That pressure should be on God.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about, you know, love and business, because we talked about purpose, right? And you're living and walking together in love and leadership, both of you being leaders. How does that play out in your marriage? When we talk, because you hear people will say, well, leadership, well, if you're doing biblical, he's the leader, but if you're doing this, how do you define love and relationship, and how does it flow in your everyday lives?
So for me, I always love one of the Army's definition. They've changed over the year, but since this is the older one, I guess I could claim it now. And leadership is the process of influencing others by providing motivation, direction, and purpose for a common goal. I take that definition and put that in my marriage. I take that definition and put it in what I do at my job. To me, I always tell people leadership is that missing ingredient in any relationship, whether it's personal or professional. Because guess what? If I can't lead myself, I definitely can't lead a wife.
You need to put that on a T-shirt, because some of these men out here trying to lead these ladies,
It's true.
and they can't even lead themselves.
And I have these conversations with them as a coach and as a military member, and they're like, Darrell, you never tell me what to do, but when I finish talking to you, I always feel like I have work to do. I'm like, that's what growth is.
Yeah.
And know that even though we've been married 25 years, we're always evolving.
I love it.
But first of all, one of the other points before I talk about evolving is that marriage requires vulnerability. So number one, if you're not ready to be vulnerable, meaning that you're not ready to be your true self, setting your representative to the side, and you show up, being trustworthy, being honest, and being willing to love.
Let's start being willing to love. Let's just pause right there, because so many people want love. They're looking for love. They're seeking love high and low, right? But they don't even have the capacity to even accept it. they don't even know. So being willing. Can you talk a little more about that, Veronica? Being willing.
Yeah,
to love.
being willing to sacrifice yourself and focus on the other individual. Being willing to accept this individual for who they are and learn. And maybe we don't want to say love sometimes, but love is it. But being willing to like this individual for who they are, the good, the bad, the ugly, the unlikable, the unlovable, and realizing that it's all going to be for my good eventually.
Right.
And then being willing not only to love, but being willing to grow together, to learn from one another, to be strengthening to each other.
Yeah.
You know, being the strength for each other. When you're going through, how do you handle challenges? We each probably do it differently, but we can grow to realize how we're going to handle a certain challenge that may come up. What's going to be best to handle it.
Yeah.
Life wasn't really easy for us. We've had some challenges.
Yeah.
But one of the things I can truly say is that we relied on our faith.
Yeah.
It was our faith that got us.
Yeah.
Now you may have some people that may not be faith based, but you're gonna lean on your values.
Yeah.
Do you align with your values?
Yeah.
Because so often we're unequally yoked and we don't have the same values from the initial meeting and getting to know one another.
And that's good. That's good. And we're not talking about stay and get in it if it's in a toxic relationship or a harmful relationship. I want to make that clear because somebody might be in a toxic, harmful relationship. And it's not like stick it out, do that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about if he's leaving the toilet seat up or she didn't manage the money right, or we're talking about marital things. We're not talking about anything extreme. I just really want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Actually, matter of fact, you can change. That's not even a toxic. It's not even such thing as a toxic relationship. That's a toxic situation. That is not a relationship.
There you. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Relationship should be something that's relational.
That's good.
Right? And taking you somewhere. And for the men, what Veronica said about the love piece, we have to come into the relationship with the mindset of putting action behind the love. Because if somebody's being vulnerable to you, the last thing you want to do as a man is try to hold that stuff over their head. Because now you already enter into the relationship with an unhealthy mindset. So, for example, one of the conversations we had once we knew that we were engaged was about, Veronica had the student loans. And I knew that was a really tough conversation for some people to bring up because, again, in our mind, it's like, I'm bringing this to the marriage. My mindset was, your loans are my loans. So what do we have to do that? Because, again, it goes back to this complimenting piece. I had to show her in action what I meant, because I could not have her entering into our marital relationship with that feeling like it's a burden around her neck. My job is to, again, help her fulfill God's purpose. She can't fulfill God's purpose if she considered constantly worrying about this doggone student loan. So it's like, it's not just.
And people don't understand that. People don't understand that because you can't focus on what you need to focus on. If you're stressed out about a student loan, stressed out about this, feeling this type of way, you're not going to get the best version of that person. So as you being her husband, how can I assist? Compliment. What can I do? Let me take, that's my love language. So I totally understand that acts of service. Like, what can I do to be of service? And if both people have that type of mentality, I think that's running into that healthy lane, that healthy relationship. Like you said, the other thing ain't even a relationship because you're not relating.
That's a situation.
Ooh, you guys, my God, today. I love it. I love it. I want to talk about I was looking at your Darrell on your page, and you said relationships in the crowded bed. Can you talk about what that is, please? Because I think that they need to hear.
Sure. So people need to be very careful about what they're consuming in their mind and in their spirit. I know people in youth ministry, I used to work with the young people, and they were like, Pastor Darrell, you don't understand. That's just how life is. That's just society. I'm like, I get it, but you can control what you consume. And what I was sharing with the young people was when you consume stuff that's ungodly and your mind starts being filled with things that are not of what God wants for you, you unfortunately start bringing that stuff into life. Then you start bringing that stuff into expectations. Then you start bringing that stuff into the marriage, which means now you bring it into, we call it the crowded bed. The bed should not be crowded. It should be empty, and what y'all bring to the relationship should create more healthiness. But if you're bringing a lot of excess stuff, like y'all said earlier, into the bed, again, you can't be your full self. Because you have this unrealistic expectation of, well, in the video, they did this, or in the movie, they did that. You can't bring that stuff into the relationship. That is not healthy.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful, and people need to get that message over and over again. Veronica, you talked about having some challenges in your marriage, and it hasn't been easy. When you think about that, what are one of the situations that came up? Tell as much or as little as you want, where you guys had to overcome that adversity together. Key word, together.
Yes. We actually had 2 miscarriages together. And one of them, I'll just say, overall, we had to each not blame the other person.
Yep.
And we know that there's a lot, statistics are out there that talk about couples that have miscarriages or have a loss of a child may lead to divorce. Well, in our marriage, divorce wasn't an option anyway. And we actually, when we were going through this, we had each other's pain. We were empathetic to understand. For me, when there's miscarriages, it's all about the woman. But it was important for me to make sure that he was okay. It was important for me to not worry about me because other people was going to take care of me because they always take care of the woman.
Isn't that something?
But my husband needed to know that I understood him, that I understood that we both were grieving and we both were going through this, and that it was only going to be God to bring us out of it.
Yeah. And
the information that we got, we just had to, we looked at each other when we, in one of the cases, we had to make a decision, and it was like, I can't make this by myself. We both have to agree on this so that it won't be any blame. It won't be any overhead, which we didn't do that with each other anyway. But we mutually made the decisions and with the information that we were given. And as a result, one of the things God shared, I was still studying, I was still praying, even in the midst of solitude of people and outside noise, right? He shared with me, Veronica, you're only in your pain for as long as you allow yourself to be. I'm like, God, what are you talking about? What does that mean? And he was like, the sooner you turn it over to me, the healing can begin. And that's in life. Yeah. We're only in our pain for as long as we allow ourselves to be. Because if we decide that we want to be in a pity party and woe is me, you're gonna maul in that. And you're going to stay in that pit for as long as you allow yourself to be. Yeah. But when you instantaneously go through situations, sure, you're going to cry. You're going to grieve. You're going to be emotional. You're not going to know, you're going to lose your mind, But you got to make sure that your faith has a great foundation, that you know that it is nobody but our God,
Yeah.
whomever you serve or whoever you believe in, can get you through this situation.
Yeah.
And then from the leadership perspective, and this is for the men, when you go through something like a miscarriage, what you have to do, again, it's all about leadership. You're asking yourself those questions. How do I lead my wife during this time? Right? What are the things that I can do? But then you also have to ask yourself, as a leader, what do I need? Because I'm also going through. So it's always important for men, you to understand this. Even though you don't want to talk about it, you have to surround yourself with your accountability brothers. And when those brothers call you and say, hey, man, let's talk, or I don't even have nothing to say, I'm just here to listen, take up your brothers and just share how you're feeling. Because that's what leadership is about. It's like, it's a process. And it would have been harder for me to lead my wife if I did not allow myself to also be led.
Woo! Every good leader knows how to follow. Every good leader knows how to follow. That was powerful. That was so, oh my gosh, that was so powerful. Once again, so many gems dropped, and I know this episode is going to bless someone. If you're watching now live, or if you're listening to the audio or even the playback, make sure if this blessed you, please send this out to bless others. These are the type of conversations that need to go viral. These are the conversations that need to start other conversations. There's a lot of foolishness on the internet, as y'all know, that gets shared 1,000,000 times, and it's a bunch of foolery. This is something that can change lives in single people and married people. So please share this out. So I'm going to ask you both, how do you continue to keep your marriage fresh and growing?
I like to say this. How do we keep the flame burning?
Yes.
We are intentional with dating. We're intentional with open up the lines of communications, and we're intentional about doing what God wants us to do and making the adjustments along the way. We may not do it right the first time, but having those intentional conversations to say, you know what, that didn't work out. Let's go back to the and revamp how we're going to do this again.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's in our parenting, whether it's in just our relationships, because we're not just in a relationship with ourselves, but we're raising teenagers and a young adult. And so what we represent, we don't want this to we've taught a lot of children who have come to us to pray for their parents in relationship to do is that we didn't really want our children to go talk about us to our leaders at church. You know, we wanted to we wanted them to really see what it means to represent God as a couple, and so that they learn what healthy looks like. And so that's something that we do intentionally. But we date. We're intentional to make sure that we have our date nights. Sometimes it's twice a week. Twice a month, or sometimes it's four times a month.
I love it.
But we're intentional. But we also make sure we spend time together. You know, a lot of times they say, "Oh, I'm not into sports." Well, I'm into sports. So a lot of times, Darrell just likes my presence.
Yeah.
I just want to know that I'm home.
Yeah.
And that I'm with him. So if he's watching football, basketball, because I know he's diehard fans.
Yeah.
He's a diehard fan. Maybe I might be a little tired, but I'll just go in and sit there with him, because that's a sacrifice that, you know what, I think he may want me. I'm not going to be a bother anyway, because he wants me, to sit there. And the good thing about Darrell is that he doesn't mind if I talk during the game.
Oh, that is good.
But just tune in, though. it depends on what you're talking about. Going in and being a presence while they're watching a game is not the time to go in and bring up a critical conversation.
That's good.
It's time to engage in the sport that you're watching, the movie that you're watching.
That's good.
Or whatever. It's not the time for that. You make time to have those critical conversations. You put them on the calendar. Like, this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, and so that you won't be going through some type of, we like to say that we read in a book, a crazy cycle. When we keep repeating the same old thing, we get historical, we never resolve anything, you got to continue to go through a crazy cycle. And we're intentional about not going through a crazy cycle, and we're intentional about making each other first. Because we know, even though we love God, He's first in our lives, but after Him is us.
Yes.
It's our children. Mm-hmm. We put things in order in the way that God would desire us to do it, and that's how we, keep our flame burning.
I love it.
And then for the men, again, she's in the sports, I'm in the sports, so guess what? Now I have to show my part. So guess what? I got to get into Hallmark, right? I got to get into those things that she likes, because that's what...
The Lifetime movies and the Hallmark Channel.
So I haven't crossed over Lifetime, but definitely Hallmark. I watch Hallmark movies.
Hallmark is good.
Because it's healthy, and again, that's not sports. It's totally away from sports. But again, those are the things that you do for each other.
Yeah.
Now, the other part about keeping the flame burning is, this is for my brothers, right? We got to remember from whence we came and what we did to show them that we were worthy of our affection. So one of the things I love doing during COVID, like some people, like they didn't dress a certain way, they kind of, wore sweatpants all week. I was the total opposite. I dressed every day like I was going into work.
All right now.
And I purposely put on cologne. So when I walked by her,
come on now.
I'm serious. I wanted her to know, like,
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
I love it.
Now, some people are like, Darrell, isn't that too much? Like, how can it be too much when I'm sharing time with my best friend? I want my best friend to know that regardless of how their day was, at the end of the day, it can be different.
Oh, at the end of the day, it could be different. And I love that. I love that, Darrell, because, Veronica, a lot of women are told, take your scarf off, make sure you dress nice for the man, make sure you smell good. And it's always focused on the woman doing this. Go to bed this way. Don't walk around this way. You hear people saying this, right? But with men, it's like they could walk around in a t-shirt, ripped shorts, or whatever, and no one says anything. So I love that you said that for the men.
Yeah, absolutely, brothers. We got to keep ourselves in check, and we got to hold each other accountable. A lot of the men around me, I have some single brothers, but I have a lot of more married people, and those are the things, like you said, like, hey man, when last time you changed up on your underwear and stuff? Like, you would ask me that? Like, absolutely. No holy t-shirt. That's not. We're not a part of the holy t-shirt club.
We're not holy in that way.
Exactly. And that's, again, it's those little things that keep the flame burning. Another thing is, we've had this vision even before the kids came, but now that they're here, they know it. Like when we buy each other cards, I spray that card with so much cologne that she knows where it came from.
See, that's old school. That's old school. That's old school. It's good.
Our daughter is so funny. She's like, golly, Dad, I smell that card all the way over here.
You got to be like, how you think you got here?
Well, but the funny thing she said after that is that she said, Dad, as long as I remember, you've been consistent. No matter what birthday, what holiday, whatever, you've been consistent. And so that's something for her to look up to.
Yeah.
Finding someone that's going to be consistent.
Yeah. Consistency is underrated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, keeping the flame burning, and that's what's so good about that. I love how Veronica says that. Keeping the flame burning can be whatever you come up with.
Yeah.
Just make it a habit.
Well, Veronica hasn't stopped smiling, so Darrell, you must be doing something right. Because she just smiling. It's
Because one thing I tell men is we're competitive.
mm-hmm.
So why not compete against yourself
Mm-hmm.
to be better than you were 5 years ago in the marriage?
Amen.
Like what I want to do the next 5 years.
Yeah.
What I want to show her differently over that. And just keep competing with yourself.
Yeah.
Because the more you compete with yourself, the less you have to worry about anything.
Yes.
And I must say, I did the same thing in COVID. I dressed up on my calls because you have Zoom meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, are you at home? I'm like, yes, I'm at home. I'm like, they said, oh, girl, I got on my pajamas. I just put a shirt over my pajamas. I said, well, that's you. That's not how I grew up, you know.
You said that's you.
But you want to make yourself appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you do you. Right?
She said that's you, but I'm gonna go ahead and put on this nice shirt and do my hair.
Yes, and lipstick. I'm a makeup person. My daughter said, "Mama, you really are a makeup person," and I didn't realize that I am. But I want to look presentable, and I don't even do a whole lot of makeup. I just do a few little things, but on camera it looks good.
Yeah.
And but the most important thing is that you're really not doing it for Darrell as much as you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
You want to feel good.
Yeah.
When you dress up, when you shower.
Yeah.
When you put on a good fragrance.
Yeah.
And you put on some clean clothes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And not the stuff you wore the day before.
Mm-hmm.
It does something for you. It makes you feel good.
It's
right?
very true.
So we shouldn't have to suffer as women with low self-esteem, all at the cost of ourselves not making, what we could do to make ourselves better.
So true.
Because I you want to make, Darrell would be in one room or I'll be at the end. We started out at the same end, opposite ends of the table, and then we had to grow to go to different rooms. But when he came down, I didn't want him to just see the Veronica that just woke up in bed with him.
Yes. I
wanted him to see the Veronica that he's used to seeing when I was working outside of the home.
There you go. And the effort.
And when we got back together.
Yeah.
The
effort. Because you know what?
Making this.
No, go ahead. Finish. Go ahead, please.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
I was going to say what people don't understand, effort can take you a long way.
It's free.
It's free. Man, I have to have you guys back for part 2. It's just so many. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes.
Absolutely. This is what we do. We love helping other couples.
I love
and
it.
We want other couples to have a healthy relationship.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
We don't want you to just think, oh my, because how many times do we hear marriage is challenging?
Mm-hmm.
For me, they think I'm going to say, well, what about your husband that makes it challenging? I'm looking at the person saying, well, what are you doing that makes it so challenging?
Mm-hmm.
It's not even about the other. It's not even about your partner or your spouse. It's about you. So what are you doing that makes it so challenging? Because you got to focus on what can you do differently. And what are you going to work on? To make it look good.
Yeah. And I'm soaking it all up because, like I told you, I've been divorced, right? So I'm soaking it all up. And even I want to encourage people, even at an older age, like you can still learn, you can still grow, you can see where you've made mistakes, where you can be better. You can see what the importance is of choosing the right partner. Because you could be doing everything the way that you're supposed to do it and the way God said do it. But if it's the wrong partner, whether it's the wrong man, wrong woman, whoever, it's not going to work like it's supposed to work. As we learn even in the beginning of this episode, and people have heard before. But I hope that they hear it in a different way today because it's so crucial.
No, that's true. Because I know a lot of older friends that Veronica had, a lot of them got married after Veronica. It was like she just provided this hope of don't focus on everybody else. Just focus on yourself. Keep doing what you need to do. And I was just so happy when I would get, she would get those calls like, oh, so-and-so get married. So-and-so got engaged. Like, we were happy for them as much as they were happy for us.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, God can bless a mess. You know, even if the right scenario didn't happen with you getting together, as long as you both are willing to make God the center
I
and
love that.
allow Him
That's
to
good.
work through both of you, how you started doesn't have to end that way.
That's good.
But you're willing to grow together. You're willing to go through and accept each other for who they are. You're willing to go through the brokenness together and figuring out how am I going to pick up these 1,000 pieces and put it back together. You allow God to mold it.
Yeah, I love that.
Sure, you surrender. You know, you can just go together in prayer and just say, God, you know, we both are jacked up.
Yes.
We need your help.
Yes.
And how can we take this jacked up situation?
Yeah.
To a blessing.
Because both have to surrender and say that I so agree with you. Like if you surrender it all and give it to God and say that, and both parties are doing that, absolutely, you're right. He can bless that mess. But if somebody is not surrendering it and if someone's not taking it to God, or somebody's being stubborn or acting like that, it's not going to work. So I love that you gave that.
No.
As we end quickly, I want to know from both of you individually, because I think this is so important, to be individuals in a relationship, in a marriage, in a union. Veronica, I'm going to start with you. What brings you joy? And it can't have nothing to do with Darrell, even though he might bring you joy. What brings Veronica joy?
What brings me joy is being able to be me.
I love that.
And being able to see the growth that I had over the years. And what brings me joy is the projects that God has me working on. And just kind of sometimes having a vision of the end product. That's what brings me joy. What brings me joy are some of my own personal aspirations. Nothing to do with Darrell, just what God would have me to do.
I love that.
That's what brings me joy.
Darrell, what brings you joy? That's good, Veronica.
For me, it's really, those three things that I operate in: being a workshop facilitator, being a coach, and being a motivational speaker. Because you don't realize, I mean, Christians realize it, but people in the world don't. And that is the power of words. And when you can just pour into somebody in a workshop or at a speech, and then somebody comes to you after and says, oh my gosh, I grew up in the hood too. And I had this happen to me too. And it's so good to see a positive brother, saying that the hood made them strong, or the hood made them this. So for me, just using my words to bring life to people, that always brings me joy.
That brings me joy too, Darrell. That's what brings me joy, doing that purpose work. You talked about purpose partners, but that purpose work, that brings me joy. This has been amazing. Everybody, I know you got something from it. If you're watching live or the replay, either the audio version or YouTube, definitely put your comments in. If you have any questions for Darrell and Veronica, put them there as well. This has been amazing. At the end of each podcast, and normally I do it and I have my prompt for the audio. So I want to just give my takeaway from today's show, today's gem, is so many. I mean, they drop so many. But it's to complement one another. That is so key in a relationship, and not compete with one another. Compliment the person. The acts of service. How can you assist them in making their day better? Sometimes that's half the battle. That takes all of the angst and all of the tenseness in your shoulders away when you see that somebody is there for you. And that's going to encourage you to even want to give them the same. That's my takeaway. And I just want to say thank you. And I want to also say thank you to TP for writing amazing intro music. And shout out to Reverend Kevin Montague. So I want to say I played some music a little bit in the beginning, YouTube and everywhere else. I own the rights to that music because they will try to mute you. I own the rights to that music. And when you see ownership, you will see Kendéll and Lenice. So I just want to shout out those two people for helping me attain original music for my YouTube channel. You're about to hear this music everywhere because I own it. I don't have to worry about it because you guys know how that is. Quickly, what would you want to say? Either one of you can end this, but what do you want to say to inspire couples who are already together or someone out there dating looking for love?
One of the big things we always talk about is make sure that you connect yourself with other mentor couples. That is an easy thing to do that a lot of people miss on, because back in the day, it was like, oh, I don't want anybody in my business.
Mm-hmm.
Mentor couples don't have time to get in your business. Mentor couples are there to mentor you and be that sounding board, not to play referee, but to just ask you those things and guide you and to help you make better decisions.
That's good. How can the people get in contact with you, social media or otherwise?
They can get with us on Facebook through Alliance Seminars Coaching, and they can also go to our website, which is allianceseminars.org.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being a guest on Shine. I greatly appreciate you all. And again, I keep saying it, but I know you've blessed somebody with this interview. I can't wait for part 2.
We'll be here.
Yes. So do me a favor and do our audience a favor. I want to do it differently in part 2, and we'll talk about this offline, but think about something that you want to teach or what you think they should know, and we'll do it in that way. We'll do it like a kind of like a workshop kind of thing. Is that okay with you?
Yep. Whatever's needed.
All right. Everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening to Shine with Kendéll and Lenice. If you are listening to the traditional audio version of this, take a peek at the YouTube visuals so you get to see this amazing couple in person. And if you're watching on YouTube and you see the visuals, go on over to where all podcasts are played and listen, because you can do that whether you're in the gym on the treadmill, whether you are in the car, riding a bike, going for a walk, just in the kitchen doing dishes, whatever. You'll be able to listen to the audio as well, because we know that everybody learns differently. So again, thank you so much for watching and joining us on Shine with Kendéll and Lenice. Remember, you are a star, so don't allow anyone to dim your... All right, guys, what did you think? Was it good? Man, it was good. That was Darrell and Veronica Williams. I want to end with this. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. 1 Corinthians 13:4-5. If any of those things are you're experiencing in your relationship or in your seek of a relationship, it is not love. If it's impatient, unkind, jealousy, envy, you're disrespecting, dishonoring each other, you're selfish and self-seeking, you're easily angered, and you keep records of all the wrong, I would ask you to reconsider, because both in the relationship deserve so much more. All right, Kendéll and Lenice, the Remix Coach. Now, one last thing before I end. I challenge you to do some homework. I want you to write down the best qualities that you have to offer yourself and to others. A lot of times you write down what you want in your mate. Today, I challenge you to write down what you want from yourself, and in turn, God will bring that to you. God bless y'all. Peace.
Shine with Kendéll, Lenice. Real talk for real people. Let's shine together.